Hello, beautiful humans. Welcome back to my studio. It's story time. Let me tell you about the first play I was ever in when I was like 5, 6 years old. My favorite animal has always been peacocks, right? I was obsessed with them as a kid. I was drawing them all of the time. I had every picture book. Watched every cartoon that possibly featured a peacock in any way. I don't know, something about their masculine beauty. I don't even know. I had a whole collection of color pencil, marker, drawings, pictures, paintings that I had done. 5, 6 years old, a whole library of beautiful peacock pictures. My first babysitter at the time, Kim, was in school for theater. The Halloween prior, the zoo was throwing a costume contest for the kids, and my saint of a mother bought some patterns and figured out how to create a peacock costume for me. A little jumpsuit with a full tail that could lift up and pin in the back so she could all fold out and lovely. It was amazing. My babysitter remembered that costume, and for her showcase was writing a show or something, vague memories, I can't remember, but wrote a show based around a little boy that wanted to become a peacock. So who does she ask to star at like 5, 6 years old? Oh, Hollywood child. To star in this show. I had all of maybe 3 lines. I think most of my job was just kind of follow other actors around stage and look and listen. The show was wild, but that sparked my creativity and that sparked my passion for the theater, which I then committed the next 20 plus years of my life to. I've got quite an eclectic performance resume, but I have to think that child turning into a bird to turn back into a child is probably one of the coolest. So anyway, with homage to my first babysitter, to my original passion for peacocks, and for this very, very interesting play, first play I was ever in, let's tell a story. Now, like always, I'm working with my usual suspects and girls, my 5 colors, red, yellow, blue, black, and white. 3 brushes. I got a 2-inch lady, 1-inch lady, and Miss Point Sister right here. Ba-da-ba-ba. And always featuring my favorite lady. Oh, I love how she glows in the light. Miss Painter's knife here. And I'm working on paper, so let's do it. Now, the theater was my first home away from home. And before the lights come on, before the drama starts, we always start in black. So I'm just gonna put a nice kind of general smudgery of black around on my canvas. I was real little for this play, so everything felt gigantic, very tall. So I'm gonna keep with that idea and just start everything very up and down, very vertical, keeping me feeling small and petite. Now, the first rule of theater, after knowing your lines and being on time and listening and living truthfully in the imaginary circumstance, is find your light. So I'm gonna use that same brush. I've given her a bath and gotten her clean. Going right in with some whites. And let's say center stage feels appropriate for me. I'm just gonna pull a little bit of this light down from the top. Focusing mostly center. I think I'll pull it down. either of these sides too. Leaving some room for this darker color to peekaboo through. Now I've gotten my 2-inch brush a little wet, not super damp, but just a little moisture on it to help spread this paint around. And as it's doing that, you notice that this paper is kind of wrinkling a little bit. It's folding, it's creating these interesting lines as I pull this white down from the top. And part of my brain is panicky, going like, no, my God, I gotta keep this paper stretched out. But the other part of me is kind of digging it. It's giving very, the drapes of the back curtain, just a little bit of light spilling off of it. It feels theatrical to me. And this is my painting, so I'm keeping it that way. And I think for funsies, I'm gonna throw a little bit of yellow up in there too. Maybe keeping the yellow mostly center. Nice golden light coming down. Beautiful. Watching her blend in with that white a little bit. Leaving some dark moments, leaving some light moments. A little bit over there too. Coming out. That's cool. Now this play, which was, I believe, set mostly to, I want to say like Andrew Lloyd Webber music, from assorted scores of the musical theater canon. Memory, Masquerade, Think of Me, Cats? There were cats in there. This play was the story of a little boy who, based on an actual story that I believe I told my babysitter, but that might have been after, I don't know, childhood brain gets a little soupy. It's the story of this little boy who finds a bird that had tried to fly through a window, hit the window, fallen down, not okay on the ground. He takes the bird to his father to help nurse the bird back to health. And as the boy is drifting to sleep, his father is telling him this bedtime story about the origin of conflict and how back in the Eden-esque era, birds and cats, yes, because the bird was trying to get away from a cat and flew into a window. Birds and cats used to be great friends, and then something happened. I remember there was a big heart on stage that someone ripped apart. Something happened, and now cats and birds are clandestine enemies forever. So the boy in his dream turns into this little baby peacock, this bird that tried to fly through a window, and goes out into Eden, is picked up by a mama bird, a peahen, who takes him and nurses him back to health, and then sneaks off in disguise to the cat's masquerade to meet an old friend of hers who is a cat and have somehow retained a friendship, a relationship throughout the course of this star-crossed feline fowl businesshood. The little boy bird follows, shenanigans ensue. The mama bird, the peahen, in an effort to save the bird's life, distracts the cats. The cats chase her. She flies into a window, and there's a very sad song, and the boy wakes up. I think there was a happy ending. Maybe. Anyway, night times, dreams, ooh, lovely fancy. I want to throw a little bit of blue in there, right? I want to keep her kind of right on these edges. It's like a peripheral dream. So I'm just gonna take some of this nice cobalt blue. I'm not really mixing her with anything. I'm just adding a little bit of this, still keeping that up and down vertical motions. And right here along the sides, the dream that's creeping in to this beautiful vision of perfection, of light, of enlightenment, literally, here in the center. This nice beauty of night, of dreams, where anything is possible, even little artsy boys turning into birds and getting a chance to fly. I remember running up on stage, and I had my little peacock costume. It was like a little pajama onesie thing with a little tail attached and a little hood for my feathers. That was all underdressed under this like giant oversized t-shirt. I think was a t-shirt of my dad's. By the way, my dad actually played the dad in the show. Again, had like maybe 3 or 4 lines, but it was really cool to run up on stage to huge, thunderous applause. Oh my God, my ego. Over to my dad, to have my dad sit and tell me a story inspired by my own weird obsession with birds. And then I get to change into a bird costume that my mom made to do a show with my dad, with my babysitter. They're like co-wrote, co-produced, starred in. It was just the mama hen. Hi, Kim. It was a surreal fantasy. I was hooked. And the story sort of talked about this nice little Eden place, this kind of garden of love, where there was no conflict, all peace. So I'm gonna mix a little bit of that nice gold coming down from the middle and this nice nighttime blue. I'll mix them together to get a nice vibrant, verdant verde, nice green. And I'll say we've got the light coming up, so I wanna have nature shooting up from below. Just kind of letting these colors blend in and not blend in. Some places they merge, some places they just sit on top of each other. Some places they just hang side by side. Still leaving, intentionally leaving, this lovely brown of my paper to peekaboo through. Wow, look at that. Give her a bath. Now I'm going back in with that same big girl brush, that same yellow white fantasy business. Just check and see if my microphone on. Don't want to repeat it last week. Oops. But I'm just going back in with that yellow and white to really literally highlight the light coming down. Oops. I dropped my palette. Now there's hair in it. Where'd that come from? Now there was this tableau, this motif, this jellical situation that was happening early on in the play when the father was describing the Eden before cats and birds started hating each other. That was this kind of dance number. These cats and these birds were all dancing around, and there was this giant kind of paper heart that was made out of a bunch of different things, looked like romance novels and love letters and stuff all pinned together on this giant reddish, pinkish, fiery orange heart that was then ripped apart by a claw or a feather, or I don't even remember. There was this image of this tattered heart, these pieces of this heart shredding apart and falling to the ground. And I'm choosing to interpret that a bit more optimistically, as in, regardless of where you are in life and what's going on, there's always a tattered amount of hope, of love floating around, if you can find it. So I'm going to mix a little bit of red and white, and just a touch of yellow, to get a nice, cute kind of pinkishy, salmony stuff. And I'm going to get that a little bit on my 1-inch brush. Just kind of following the patterns down here. I think I'm just going to throw a few light streaks of this pink, gliding down very subtly, very subtle. Add a little bit more yellow to it. Yes. Ooh, look at that. That yellow is awesome. Yellow and red, pink. Creating these oranges. Fun fact, if at any point in time in any of these videos I mistakenly use the word yellow for orange or orange for yellow, it's a thing. It's a thing that I've had since I was old enough to be able to speak the words. Undiagnosed dyslexia, I don't really know what it is, but orange and yellow, though I can distinguish the colors, for some reason in my head, the words get mixed around. Every eccentric creative has a little picadillos about themselves. There are worse things to have. I feel like you can never have too many colors in a piece inspired by peacocks. Now, the second part of this peacock performance, I mentioned that I had quite a collection of drawings, sketches, illustrations, 5-year-old Scotty art masterpieces lying around, which initially inspired the costume, which inspired the play, blah, blah, blah. In tandem with the show, in the gallery space outside of the theater, the company thought it would be a really cool idea to take my collection of 50 plus 5-year-old drawings, they were pretty fabulous, of peacocks that I had made, framed them, hung them up. So technically, I had my first gallery exhibit on the same night as my first theatrical performance. And ever since then, those two passions have gone hand in hand. I've always approached theater from a visual arts standpoint. I've always approached the visual arts from a very theatrical standpoint. The two are forever ineffably linked. So, let's make a peacock. Now I know, in every piece ever, the tail, the train, I guess, it's not technically a tail, but the train feathers are always the focal point. They're always the focal point. But I'm going to pay a little less attention to detail on the tail. I want to keep the main details, the main realism here on the face, here on the head, here on the mind of my peacock. And the tail, like a dream, I just want to sort of have, starting to sort of float off mistily, dreamily into this world of this kid's imagination. All right, it's time for my favorite girl. And I'm gonna go back into that blue, those blues, I'll say plural, because I'm gonna mix it up a little bit. But these blues and these greens, maybe even a little bit of purple in there. I'm gonna go to my favorite palette knife, my painter's knife right here. I'm tracing along my edges. I'm gonna go back to my favorite technique, same thing I always do. Just hold my brush very lightly, very loosely in my hand, letting her kind of wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Let her catch up on all of those interesting textures, all of those nice ripples and wrinkles that we've created so far. Letting my paint knife add to that conversation. I think rather than straight up and down like we did in the beginning, I'm going to kind of follow this curve of my feathers. If I can imagine, I don't know, almost everything sort of maybe kind of spiraling in a little bit. All of this opportunity for beauty, all this opportunity for grace coming in toward my protagonist here. We haven't featured a lot of yet. Purple. So I'm gonna get some of that red and blue on my palette knife. Ooh, maybe a little bit more blue there. Oh gosh, let's see, where do I want her? Everywhere. Where do I want her? Oh, say the answer is everywhere. Shadows of the night. Look at her. Of the many peacocks I've known in my life, well, there was that farm down the road that had the peacocks that kept yelping and everybody thought it was a woman screaming, so they kept calling the police. I think that was over by my grandparents' house. There's also Mrs. Peacock, played by the iconic Eileen Brennan in my absolute favorite movie ever made, period. Clue. If you haven't seen it, how dare you go watch it. I also have a very early memory of childhood from some cartoon from the 80s, maybe 90s, called Lil Bits. I think it was an import from Japan, maybe. But they had an episode where they found a little baby peacock egg. Had no idea what it was. Had to take it back to them. These are like little garden gnome kind of people anyway. Take their little baby peacock back to find his mommy and daddy. And when they did, Daddy gave them a thank you in the form of a beautiful peacock dance where he let his tail out. And I think I remember it saying something about how day turned into night and our heroes were enchanted, hypnotized by the beauty of the peacock. And I remember that cartoon somewhere floating here in all of this complex space in my brain. Early formative memories. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, that is the most beautiful creature in the world. I used to want one as a pet, but I think mature me is thinking, maybe exotic animals shouldn't be kept. They should be out there in nature like they should be, adding to her beauty. Oh, ooh, that's fun. Pop some red in here. Maybe I'll counterbalance her with a little bit of red coming down this side too. Yes. Oh yeah. Just little moments where I'm letting this red and blue play together. Oh gosh, she's lovely. Lovely. like that, he's done. One last little signature down here on the bottom. S-O. And voila. Complete. This was a lot of fun, so I hope you enjoyed it. Like always, prints are available on my website. The original is also for sale, but you're going to have to contact me directly to talk about that. You are very special to me, so I might keep you around. But in any case, have a fantastic rest of your day, evening, night, morning. Stay fabulous, be creative, and I will see you next time. Oh, and if you have a story that you would like to see me visually interpret, a story, poem, a favorite song, shoot me a message. I love collaboration. But I will see you next time.